Captain Sarah Chen stood at the helm of the ESS Horizon, Earth's most advanced deep space exploration vessel, as it dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Carina Nebula. The ship's quantum sensors had picked up something unusual, a repeating signal that didn't match any known patterns in the database. Signal analysis complete, Captain. Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez reported from his station. It's different. The encryption is unlike anything we've seen before, but there's something almost musical about its structure. Sarah moved to study his display. After 15 years of deep space exploration, she'd learned to trust her instincts. This wasn't just another automated distress beacon or piece of space debris broadcasting random electromagnetic noise. This was something else entirely. "Can we clean it up?" she asked, watching as streams of data scrolled across the screen. Marcus nodded, his fingers dancing across the holographic interface. "Working on it now. The AI is helping decode. Wait, there's something. It's resolving into a clear message." The bridge fell silent as words began appearing on the main view screen. "We are the Xylaxians. Our civilization faces extinction. If anyone receives this, please help. We were once many, now we are few. Our knowledge is vast, but our strength is gone." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. The Xylaxians were supposed to be a myth, a story told by other spacefaring races about an ancient civilization that had achieved technological marvels before vanishing without a trace thousands of years ago. "Plot a course to the signal's origin," she ordered, "and get me a secure channel to Earth Space Command. They need to know what we found." Admiral James Harrison's hologram materialized in the ship's conference room 6 hours later. His weathered face looked grave as he reviewed the signal data. "Captain Chen, are you absolutely certain about this?" he asked, leaning forward. "The implications of finding living Xylaxians." "The signal is genuine, sir," Sarah replied. "We've confirmed it's being broadcast from a planet in the Carina Nebula's outer rim. The energy signature matches what little we know about their technology." Harrison was quiet for a long moment, considering. Earth had only recently emerged as a significant power in the galaxy. Their policy of helping vulnerable civilizations had earned them both respect and enemies. Taking on the protection of a supposedly extinct race would be risky. "You understand what this could mean, Captain. There are forces in the galaxy who would rather the Xylaxians remain forgotten. If we help them, we'll be making a statement that Earth won't ignore injustice, no matter the consequences." Sarah stood straighter. "With respect, sir, that's exactly why we need to help. Everything we know about the Xylaxians suggests they were peaceful, focused on art and scientific advancement. If we turn our backs on them now, what does that say about humanity?" Harrison's hologram smiled slightly. "I expected you'd say that." "Very well, Captain. I'm authorizing the humanitarian mission. The ESS Defender and ESS Guardian will rendezvous with you in 48 hours. They'll provide security while your crew assesses the situation." As the Admiral's hologram faded, Sarah turned to her senior staff. "Dr. Elena Santos, I want you leading the first contact team. Your expertise in xenopropology will be crucial. Lieutenant Rodriguez, work with engineering to prepare emergency supply pods. If their civilization is as desperate as the message suggests, they'll need immediate aid." Elena, the ship's chief science officer, was already reviewing historical records on her tablet. The Xylaxians were said to be masters of biotechnology and environmental engineering. Their cities were supposedly living organisms that grew and adapted to their inhabitants' needs. If even a fraction of those stories are true, then helping them rebuild could advance Earth's scientific knowledge by centuries. Sarah finished. "But that's not why we're doing this. We're doing it because it's right." The next 2 days were a blur of preparation. The crew worked around the clock, preparing medical supplies, food synthesizers, and portable shelter units. Sarah spent hours studying everything known about Xylaxian culture and technology, most of it dismissed as legends by mainstream xenorchaeologists. When the Defender and Guardian arrived, their massive forms sliding out of hyperspace like silver arrows. Sarah felt a surge of pride. These ships represented the best of humanity, built not for conquest, but for protection and exploration. All ships maintain formation, she ordered as they began their approach to the source of the signal. We don't know what we'll find, but remember, we're here to help, not to judge or exploit. The planet came into view, a blue-green sphere wreathed in wispy clouds. But as they drew closer, the signs of devastation became clear. Massive scars marked the surface, and rings of debris floated in orbit, the remains of what must have once been magnificent orbital structures. Life signs detected, Marcus reported, his voice tight with emotion. They're concentrated in what appears to be a single city, or what's left of it. The readings are weak, but they're there. The Zalaxians survived. Sarah took a deep breath, squaring her shoulders. Humanity's first contact with a living legend was about to begin, and she was determined to prove that Earth's compassion was as mighty as its starships. "Take us in," she ordered. "Let's show them they're not forgotten anymore." The ruins of the Zalaxian city stretched before them like a fallen giant. What must have once been graceful organic towers now lay broken and withered, their bioluminescent surfaces dim and lifeless. Captain Sarah Chen led the first contact team through streets that seemed to pulse weakly beneath their feet, as if the very ground remembered its former glory. Dr. Elena Santos moved carefully beside her, her sensors sweeping the environment. "Amazing," she breathed. "The entire city is one interconnected organism. Even in this damaged state, it's trying to maintain itself. I've never seen anything like it." The team rounded a corner and found themselves facing a group of Zalaxians. They were tall, willowy beings with iridescent skin that shifted colors like oil on water. Their large, multifaceted eyes studied the humans with a mixture of hope and wariness. One of them stepped forward, raising a hand in greeting. "I am Vexlin, speaker for the Remnant," it said, its voice translated through their universal communicators with a musical quality. "We did not expect a response to our message so quickly." Sarah stepped forward, matching the gesture. "I'm Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Space Command vessel Horizon. We're here to help." The Zalaxian's skin rippled with blue patterns, an expression of emotion their briefings hadn't prepared them for. "Help," Vexlin repeated softly. "It has been so long since anyone offered us that." Before they could continue, Lieutenant Rodriguez's voice crackled through Sarah's comm. "Captain, we're picking up multiple ships entering the system. They're not Earth vessels." Sarah's jaw tightened. They'd expected this, but not so soon. "Understood. Maintain defensive positions, but do not engage unless fired upon." She turned back to Vexlin. "We don't have much time. Tell us what you need most urgently." The next hours were a blur of activity. Earth shuttles descended from orbit carrying supplies, while engineering teams worked with Zalaxian scientists to stabilize their failing life support systems. The city itself seemed to respond to their efforts, its tissues gradually brightening wherever repairs were made. But Sarah couldn't shake her unease about the approaching ships. She stood in the makeshift command center they'd established, watching as more contacts appeared on the tactical display. 7 vessels now. Commander Jake Torres reported from the ESS Defender. 3 Arcturian warships, 2 Corel traders, and we can't identify the others. They're maintaining distance but definitely watching us. "The scavengers have returned," Vexlin said quietly, entering the command center. Their skin had taken on a muted gray tone. "They have been stealing pieces of our world for centuries, taking what they please while we were too weak to stop them." Elena, who had been documenting Zalaxian technology, looked up from her work. "Why didn't anyone help you before? The historical records suggest you had allies among other spacefaring races." "We did." Vexlin's skin darkened further. "But when the plague wars began, when our biological technologies were turned against us by our enemies, those allies feared contamination. They quarantined our entire sector and left us to die." Sarah felt her resolve strengthen. That won't happen again. Not while Earth stands with you. A warning alarm blared through the command center. One of the unidentified ships had launched smaller vessels, heading toward the surface. Captain Rodriguez's voice was tense. "We're receiving a transmission from the Arcturian flagship. They're demanding we withdraw immediately. They're claiming this sector is under their protection and that we're interfering in internal affairs." Sarah exchanged looks with Vex Lin. The Zalaxian's skin had become almost transparent with fear. "Your ships are powerful," they said, "but the Arcturians are ruthless. They will not hesitate to destroy you." "Perhaps," Sarah replied, straightening her uniform. "But they'll find that Earth can be equally determined when protecting those in need. Rodriguez, put me through to all channels." The comm system crackled to life, and Sarah spoke with all the authority she could muster. "This is Captain Chen of Earth Space Command. The Zalaxian people have requested our help, and we have answered. Any hostile action against them will be considered an act of war against Earth. We do not seek conflict, but we will not abandon those in need." There was a long moment of silence. The tactical display showed the approaching smaller vessels slowing, then stopping. "A bold statement, Captain," came the reply, the Arcturian's gravelly voice filled with amusement. "But does Earth truly understand what it's protecting? The Zalaxians were quarantined for good reason. Their biotechnology is too dangerous to be allowed to resurface." "We're well aware of the history," Sarah responded. "We're also aware that the Zalaxians were victims, not aggressors. If you have legitimate concerns, we welcome diplomatic discussion, but threats will not make us abandon our mission." The Arcturian ships held their position, creating a tense standoff. Sarah knew this was only the beginning. Word would spread quickly through the galaxy that Earth was helping the Zalaxians rebuild. Some would see it as noble, others as dangerous naivety. Vex Lin approached her, their skin now showing patterns of gold gratitude. She was beginning to understand. "No one has ever stood up to them before," they said softly. "Not for us." Sarah smiled grimly. "Then it's about time someone did. But we need to work quickly. Dr. Santos, coordinate with the Zalaxian scientists. I want to know everything about the technology that was used against them. We need to be prepared if someone tries to use it again." As her crew and the Zalaxians worked together, Sarah watched the skies through the broken towers of the living city. The Arcturian ships were just the first. More would come, drawn by the news that the forgotten race was rebuilding. Earth had taken its stand, but the real test of their resolve was still to come. 2 weeks after Earth's ships arrived at the Zalaxian homeworld, the situation had grown more complex. The orbital space around the planet was crowded with vessels from a dozen different species, each claiming their own interest in the sector. Captain Sarah Chen hadn't slept properly in days, dealing with an endless stream of demands and thinly veiled threats. Another ultimatum from the Corel Consortium, Lieutenant Rodriguez reported, his voice tired. "They're claiming salvage rights to all abandoned Zalaxian technology in the outer system. They say it's legally theirs under the Galactic Salvage Accords of 2184. Sarah stood at the main viewport of the ES Horizon, watching the lights of alien ships glitter against the darkness. "Remind them that the Zalaxians are very much alive, and therefore their technology cannot be considered salvage. And copy Earth Command on the response. They need to be aware of every legal challenge we're facing." Down on the surface, the changes were becoming visible. The Zalaxian city was slowly healing, its organic architecture responding to the combined efforts of human engineers and Zalaxian scientists. Dr. Elena Santos had made breakthrough after breakthrough in understanding their biotechnology, working closely with Vex Lin and their research team. "The city's neural network is regenerating," Elena reported during the morning briefing, her eyes bright with excitement despite her exhaustion. The Zalaxians didn't just build their cities. They grew them from modified coral-like organisms. The structures are actually alive, capable of self-repair and adaptation. With the right nutrients and energy input, we might be able to accelerate the healing process. But not everyone was happy about this progress. The Arcturian warships had been joined by vessels from the Meridian Hegemony and the Volari Dominion, forming a loose alliance of powers opposed to Earth's intervention. Their ships performed aggressive patrol patterns at the edge of the system, testing the response times of Earth's defensive screen. "They're trying to wear us down," Commander Torres observed from the ESS Defender, "keeping us constantly alert, waiting for us to make a mistake." Sarah knew he was right, but she also knew they couldn't show weakness. Earth's reputation throughout the galaxy would be shaped by how they handled this crisis. More importantly, the fate of the Zalaxian people hung in the balance. The situation reached a breaking point when a Meridian scout ship accidentally strayed into the inner defense perimeter. The ESS Guardian locked weapons, following protocol, but didn't fire. The resulting diplomatic exchange was heated. "You're harboring a quantum plague risk," the Meridian ambassador insisted, his hologram flickering with interference, or perhaps anger. The Zalaxians were quarantined because their biotechnology could destroy entire worlds if it evolved beyond control. "We have a duty to ensure that never happens." Sarah stood her ground. "We've reviewed all the historical data, Ambassador. The only plague incident was caused by external forces weaponizing Zalaxian technology against them. The Zalaxians themselves have proven to be peaceful and responsible with their innovations." "You're naive," the ambassador sneered. "Earth is young to the galactic stage. You don't understand the forces you're dealing with." "Perhaps it's our youth that lets us see clearly," Sarah replied. "We haven't been corrupted by centuries of political maneuvering and abandoned principles. The Zalaxians need help, and we're going to provide it." The confrontation seemed to embolden others. A Volari battle group attempted to establish a blockade of the outer system, claiming they were conducting routine exercises. Earth responded by sending 3 more ships, the ESS Intrepid, Valiant, and Resolute, significantly increasing their defensive capabilities. Admiral Harrison contacted Sarah privately after the reinforcements arrived. "The Security Council is backing your position, Captain, but they're concerned. If this escalates into open conflict." "It won't come to that," Sarah assured him, with more confidence than she felt. "These powers are used to getting their way through intimidation. They don't expect anyone to stand up to them. If we remain firm but avoid provocation, they'll eventually have to negotiate." But even as she spoke, she was watching a disturbing pattern emerge on the tactical displays. The hostile ships were slowly moving to cut off specific approach vectors, creating a web of overlapping sensor coverage. They were looking for something, or expecting something. Vex Lin confirmed her suspicions during their next meeting. "We've detected quantum signature traces," they said, their skin rippling with patterns of deep purple. Worry, Sarah had learned. They match technologies used during the Plague Wars. Someone has been testing old weapons in nearby systems. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. They wouldn't dare use biological weapons. The galactic community would never allow it. The galactic community allowed us to be abandoned. Vex Lin reminded her softly. "Fear is a powerful motivator, Captain. Our enemies will claim they are preventing a greater catastrophe by destroying us." Sarah activated her command channel. "All ships, this is Captain Chen. Increase sensor sweeps for quantum signatures. I want to know about any unauthorized vessel or probe entering this system, and get me a secure channel to Earth Command. We need to discuss contingency plans." As she waited for the connection, Sarah looked down at the healing Zalaxian city below. They had drawn a line in the stars, and now they had to defend it. But humanity had not come this far to back down now. Whatever their enemies were planning, Earth would be ready. The attack came at dawn. Multiple quantum ruptures tore open the space around the Zalaxian homeworld as a massive fleet of hostile ships dropped out of hyperspace. The coalition forces had finally shown their hand, and it was more devastating than even Captain Sarah Chen had feared. 23 capital ships detected, Lieutenant Rodriguez reported, his voice steady despite the tension. Arcturian dreadnoughts, Meridian carriers, Volari battle cruisers. They're launching fighters, and something else, getting strange readings from their weapon signatures. Sarah's tactical display lit up with threat indicators. The enemy fleet had positioned itself to cut off all escape routes while maintaining a clear shot of the planet. They had been planning this for weeks, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. All Earth ships, battle stations, Sarah ordered. Defensive Formation Delta. Protect the planet at all costs. She turned to her communications officer. Get me Vexlin immediately. The Xylaxian leader's hologram appeared, their skin flickering with patterns of deep red. Fear mixed with determination. We're detecting quantum plague signatures, they said without preamble. They've modified the old weapons, made them more aggressive. If those warheads reach our atmosphere. They won't, Sarah promised. She opened a channel to all Earth ships. This is what we trained for. Remember, we're not just defending the Xylaxians. We're defending the principle that the strong have a duty to protect the weak. Earth stands with its allies. The enemy fleet launched its first wave, a combination of conventional weapons and biological warheads designed to overwhelm their defenses. But Earth's ships weren't alone. In the weeks leading up to this moment, they had been working with the Xylaxians to prepare for exactly this scenario. Activate the planetary shield, Sarah commanded. The surface of the Xylaxian city began to glow. What their enemies had mistaken for simple reconstruction had been something far more ambitious. Dr. Elena Santos and her Xylaxian counterparts had discovered a way to repurpose the city's living architecture into a planetary defense system. Massive tendrils of bioluminescent energy rose from the regenerated buildings, weaving together into a shield that encompassed the entire planet. It wasn't just a barrier. It was alive, adaptive, capable of analyzing and neutralizing biological threats before they could reach the surface. Impossible, the Arcturian commander's voice crackled through the command channel. That technology was lost centuries ago. Not lost, Sarah replied. Protected. The Xylaxians never stopped innovating. They just needed allies who would trust them instead of fear them. The battle erupted in earnest. Earth's ships moved with precision, their crews working in perfect coordination. The ESS Defender and Guardian took point, their advanced shields absorbing the brunt of the enemy fire, while the Horizon coordinated the defense. But the coalition forces were powerful, and they fought with the desperation of those who believed they were preventing a catastrophe. A Meridian carrier broke through the defensive line, launching a swarm of automated drones carrying biological weapons. They're targeting the shield generators, Rodriguez warned. If they disrupt the pattern. Not today, Sarah growled. Dr. Santos now. Elena's voice came through clear and confident. Activating Protocol Omega. The Xylaxian city pulsed with new energy. The biological shield didn't just defend. It began to adapt and evolve. Tendrils of living light reached out, ensnaring enemy drones and dissolving their weapons harmlessly. The very technology that their enemies had feared was now being used to save lives. All ships pushed the advantage, Sarah ordered. Don't let them regroup. Earth's fleet moved as one, their formations tightening. The ESS Intrepid and Valiant executed a perfect pincer movement, trapping a group of Volare cruisers between their combined fire. The ESS Resolute's point defense systems created an impenetrable screen against enemy fighters. But the tide truly turned when the Xylaxians themselves joined the battle. From hidden bunkers beneath their city, they launched swarms of tiny organic ships, not weapons of war, but platforms of peace repurposed for defense. These living vessels moved with incredible agility, interfacing directly with the planetary shield to strengthen it where needed. Their bioships, the Meridian commander's voice held a note of awe. They're not attacking. They're protecting. All these years, we thought. You thought wrong, Sarah stated firmly. The Xylaxians could have developed weapons of unimaginable power. Instead, they chose to advance life-saving technology. That's why Earth stands with them, not because they're weak, but because they chose to be better. The coalition fleet's formation began to waver. One by one, ships began to pull back, their crews forced to confront the reality that everything they had believed about the Zalaxians had been wrong. The mighty invasion force that had arrived with such confidence was now in retreat. They're withdrawing, Rodriguez confirmed. Multiple ships entering hyperspace. The Arcturian dreadnoughts are powering down weapons. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Send to all frequencies. Earth welcomes diplomatic discussions about the future of this sector. We believe the Zalaxians have much to teach all of us, if we're willing to listen instead of fear. As the enemy fleet retreated, the Zalaxian city below blazed with triumph. Its living towers pulsed with light, and the planetary shield shimmered with colors that seemed to dance among the stars. It was a display not of military might, but of life's endless capacity to adapt and survive. Vexlin's hologram appeared again, their skin now showing patterns of gold and blue, joy mixed with gratitude. You did more than save us, Captain. You helped us remember who we are. Sarah looked out at the stars, where Earth's ships stood proud alongside the graceful forms of Zalaxian biovessels. That's what allies do, she said simply. We help each other become the best versions of ourselves. 3 months after the battle that became known as the Stand of the Horizon, the Zalaxian homeworld was transformed. Where broken towers had once reached desperately toward the sky, a new city bloomed, one that merged the best of Earth's technology with Zalaxian bioengineering. The living architecture pulsed with vibrant colors, its neural networks now hosting both Zalaxian and human inhabitants. Captain Sarah Chen stood in the newly constructed Galactic Assembly Chamber, watching representatives from 24 spacefaring races argue about the future. The chamber itself was a testament to the new era. Its walls were alive, shifting and adapting to create perfect acoustic conditions for each speaker, regardless of their species' auditory needs. The Zalaxian Accords cannot be ratified without further study, the Arcturian representative insisted, though with notably less conviction than months ago. The implications of widespread biotechnology sharing have already been demonstrated, Dr. Elena Santos interrupted, standing at her place beside Vexlin. In the months since the battle, she had become Earth's leading expert on Zalaxian technology, working tirelessly to bridge the gap between their different approaches to science. The medical applications alone have already saved thousands of lives across 3 systems. She gestured to the holographic display hovering above the chamber center. It showed real-time data from hospitals across the galaxy where Zalaxian biotech, carefully adapted by joint human-Zalaxian research teams, was being used to treat previously incurable conditions. This is why we chose to stand with Earth, Vexlin added, their skin shimmering with patterns of wisdom and conviction. They did not see our technology as a weapon to be feared, but as a gift to be shared. Together, we are finding ways to help all species, not harm them. Sarah smiled, remembering the weeks after the battle. The coalition fleet's retreat had created a power vacuum in the sector, but instead of attempting to fill it with military might, Earth had proposed something unprecedented. A scientific and cultural exchange program that would benefit all participating worlds. Lieutenant Rodriguez, now promoted to commander, approached with a data tablet. Latest reports from the outer colonies, Captain. 3 more worlds have signed the accords. They're particularly interested in the atmospheric restoration technology. The technology he referred to had been one of the first joint projects between Earth and the Zalaxians. By combining human terraform engineering with Zalaxian biological adaptability, they had created systems capable of rehabilitating planets damaged by industrial pollution or natural disasters. It was a powerful symbol of what could be achieved through cooperation. The galaxy is changing, Admiral Harrison observed, his hologram joining Sarah at the viewport. When we first answered the Zalaxians' distress call, some called it naive idealism. Now they're calling it the beginning of a new age of galactic cooperation. Sarah watched as a group of young Zalaxians guided visitors through their city's gardens, where Earth plants grew alongside alien species in harmonious combinations that should have been impossible. We just did what was right, she said simply. Everything else followed from that. But it hadn't all been smooth sailing. There had been attempts by hardline factions to disrupt the new alliance, raids by pirates hoping to steal biotechnology secrets, and countless diplomatic crises as different cultures learned to work together. Yet each challenge had only served to strengthen the bonds between Earth and the Zalaxians. "Captain," Vexlin called, approaching with a small object cradled in their hands. "We would like you to be the first to see this." They opened their hands to reveal what looked like a seed, but it pulsed with an inner light that seemed to respond to the presence of those around it. "The first true hybrid," Elena explained, her eyes shining with excitement. "A fusion of Earth and Zalaxian DNA, capable of growing into a new kind of ship, one that can adapt to any environment, heal itself, and nurture its crew. The next generation of space exploration." Sarah carefully took the seed, feeling its subtle warmth. "A perfect symbol," she said. "Life finds a way to bring us together, even across the stars." The chamber grew quiet as more representatives noticed what she was holding. The seed's glow strengthened, reflecting in the eyes of humans and aliens alike. In that moment, Sarah could see the future they were building, one where the barriers between species fell away, replaced by a shared commitment to growth and discovery. "We have a saying on Earth," Sarah addressed the chamber. "A single act of kindness can ripple across the universe." When we chose to help the Zalaxians, we weren't thinking about changing the galaxy. We were just reaching out to those in need. But in doing so, we all discovered something greater than ourselves. Above the city, Earth ships patrolled alongside Zalaxian biovessels. Their contrasting forms a reminder of how different paths could lead to the same destination. The planetary shield, once a desperate defense mechanism, now served as a research platform for studying the intersection of organic and mechanical technologies. "The next few years will be crucial," Admiral Harrison noted. "Other races are watching how we handle this partnership. They want to see if it's truly possible for different species to work together as equals." Sarah looked down at the seed in her hands, then out at the city where humans and Zalaxians worked side by side. "They'll see," she said confidently. "We'll show them what's possible when we stand together." As the sun set over the Zalaxian world, its light caught the crystalline spires of the new city, creating a rainbow that seemed to bridge the gap between earth and sky. It was more than just a beautiful sight. It was a promise of what the future could hold when courage, compassion, and determination came together across the stars.